85.62 on the Nifty right now. Pretty strong market. The Sensex also looking very strong. 28,300 on the Sensex. Almost 2/3% up right now. 28,304. Broader markets also strong. We saw that since the morning, the small cap index has been doing almost 1% right now, 1% up. The mid cap index 0.8% up, and the Nifty Junior about 3/4% up. And the advanced decline ratio on the BSE 500, which is the top 500 stocks on the BSE, 79% advances, 17% declines. Very strong market today. We'll have to wait and see what kind of volumes we see, because yesterday the volumes had been, on Friday the volumes had been relatively low. Symphony, this is a counter which is doing extremely well, 6.7% out. That's because its margins, it's come out with stellar Q2 numbers, and its margins are the strongest in 18 quarters. So in 4.5 years, this is the strongest performance from Symphony. Nrupesh Shah, he joins me on our show right now. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Shah. I want to first of all ask you to just explain the business to our viewers. I know most of them know it. There are a lot of ads out. Many of our viewers probably use your products, but just give us the breakup.
What breakup you are referring to?
If you could just break up the domestic cooling segment, the industrial cooling segment that you have, the cooling projects, just give us that breakup.
Okay. As far as residential air cooler in India is concerned, the current market size is about 6 million units, out of which organized market is about 1.20 million units. That is 20%, and remaining 80% is unorganized sector. And industry as a whole in domestic market is growing at about 12 to 15%, and organized is growing at about 20%. And we expect that trend to continue in the medium to long term. As far as Symphony's market share is concerned, in organized market, we command close to 50% market share. And as far as international market is concerned, as per our estimate, rest of India and China, the international market size of residential air cooler is close to 7 million units. And there we sell in excess of 1 lakh units, and we have a long way to go. And there is a huge opportunity. There we believe we have barely scratched the surface.
And even as far in India, Mr. Shah, you are essentially saying that only 20% of the cooler market is actually organized.
Absolutely. So we expect that organized share should in the days to come to go up. In fact, this 20% market share was just about 10-12% 4 or 5 years before. And even with the introduction of GST, if it is introduced in a right form, the shift from unorganized to organized can accelerate further.
What would be the average cost differential? I mean, how much cheaper would a unorganized cooler be compared to, let's say, a Symphony cooler?
Of course, that may be more like a comparison of apple versus orange, but nevertheless, the difference may be ranging from 50% to 100%. But there is no comparison when it comes to the product quality, performance, sound level, aesthetics, service after sales, and even durability of the product.
No, the reason I'm asking you this, Mr. Shah, is because if 80% of the domestic market is still unorganized, I'm assuming that it's also price sensitive market, right? Because the aspiration would be to move from coolers to air conditioners. So the cooler market, I'm assuming, will be relatively price sensitive?
Air cooler market is price sensitive, but for that matter, I believe most of the products are price sensitive. But having said that, air conditioner penetration in the country is 3%, air cooler penetration is 8%, and there are about 30% of the households who own only fans, and there are about 32% of the households who don't own even any cooling appliances. So in a way, no way we are competing with air conditioner. What market we are expecting or tapping is shift from no fan to fan or to air cooler, as well as from fan to air cooler. as well as the huge replacement market.
Now, before we proceed to the institutional sales that you have and also the other export and industrial sales that you have, I just want to understand that when you talk about coolers, I'm taking the example of, let's say, something like tiles. Some of the tile companies right now, they are operating on an outsourcing and JV model to expand from organized into the unorganized space. Essentially take over whatever the unorganized sector has in terms of market share. Is that a model worth looking at even for cooling business?
In fact, we have already shifted from own manufacturing and assembling to outsource business model about 4 or 5 years before. About 5 years before, we had one outsourced manufacturing facility. Now we are having 9 outsourced manufacturing facility, and that works extremely well. And in fact, that helps us to focus on sales, marketing, product innovation, and also greater flexibility. Of course, these 9 outsourced facilities are over and above SEZ facility meant for exports.
All right. When I look at the cost structure itself, I'm assuming that there is largely plastic, which is your biggest cost, a little amount of metals, and is it still a cast-based system that is largely used, or is it an artificial system?
If I understand your question correctly, it's lead to the plastic and other metal prices. So of course, good amount of plastic is being used in air cooler, and the cost of the plastic is also linked with the oil price. So of course, softening in oil price has also helped us in material consumption costs.
So essentially your costs are going down, and you are maintaining a significant amount of pricing power, I'm assuming, given that you have 50% of the market share in the organized sector.
That's right.
So is that the reason why the margins are improving?
That is one of the reasons.
Okay.
Along with softening of the cost, it's also better sales mix, launch of new models, and upgradation of the existing models, which has helped us in improving the profitability. And also during first 6 months, in volume terms, our sales has grown up in excess of 30%. So also on the higher base, even economy of scale is also helping. So it's a combination of all the factors.
I understand that, I was looking at your conference call last quarter, in the first quarter that you had on the 14th of October, and there you were explaining that you managed to beat the seasonality cycle in your sales system. Could you explain that a little bit to our viewers?
As air cooler as such at a retail level is a seasonal product. Most of the sales at a retail level, that is from the dealer's place or from online retail, normally takes place during February to June. But on account of various marketing strategies, on account of the product innovation, and on account of the branding power, we have succeeded in having the sales at a distributor level and dealer level, even in first 2 quarters, that is September, which is a monsoon period, and December, which is the winter period, because dealers and distributors get very good deal in terms of the pricing if they buy early, and they know that because of the branding, because of the product, and because of the consistent business practices of the company, even if they have to hold till peak season, it's a good deal for them, and that has succeeded very well, and that is also helping us to deseasonalize, to improve our working capital cycle substantially.
Okay, so I understand that working capital cycle is an improvement, and perhaps your inventory holding costs are lower, but otherwise how do you benefit from it? Because let's say you were going to sell an X number of coolers across the year. Now if you distribute them throughout the year, I'm to distributors, selling it, pushing them out to distributors throughout the year, I'm assuming that your average margin in the lean season, in the winter season, is going to be lower, right?
It helps us in many respects.
Okay.
Number one, it helps us to streamline our production and procurement. We are in a position to have the production and procurement throughout the year.
Okay.
We have not to depend upon seasonality of the production, which otherwise becomes quite risky. That is number one. Number two, our receivable terms, that is the payment terms with the trade, are 100% advance. So rather than holding the inventory till peak season, if we sell in July or if we sell in October, we get the funds well in advance, and part of the discount given to the trade we offset by way of the treasury income. And thirdly, even if season doesn't go well, but once it is a paid stock with the trade channel, they always have a motivation as well as push first to sell the paid stock vis-a-vis the competition.
Okay, that's interesting. From the labor cost side of your production, of the coolers themselves, now if someone bought, in the old days one had the local cooler guy come and make a room cooler for you out of wood and khaskhas and wires and put a Kirloskar pump and run it. Now, is that a specialized kind of operation, or can anyone be used in the assembly line systems that you would have?
As far as basic concept is concerned, it remains the same.
Okay.
But Symphony has transformed the product in respect of aesthetics, in terms of the features, in terms of the electricity consumption, in terms of the air throw, etc. And that's where Symphony's product vis-a-vis organized sector or unorganized sector is quite superior. And there is also tremendous aspiration value to the consumers.
No, the reason I'm asking you this is that is this a skilled labor requirement, or is it a labor which is easily fungible from one kind of trade to another, the ones that you require?
No, as we have already moved to outsource business model, of course, we need not to employ the labor at our end. But at the level of the outsource manufacturers, who are typically in our case large molders, so their existing workforce is in a position to mold as well as to assemble and manufacture our product. So it's not that much labor intensive vis-a-vis unorganized.
Okay, Mr. Shah, I understand that you are also very innovative in institutional cooling, like whether it is religious, institutions, offices. There are various things where you are constantly looking and providing new products. Now, is this a new growth area for you?
According to us, there are three business segments into which we are operating. One is a residential air cooler in domestic market, which air cooler industry as a whole, organized, unorganized, put together, is growing at about 12 to 50%, and current market size is 6 million units. We expect market size to be about 10 million units in next 5 to 6 years. Number two, current unorganized market is about 80%, and we expect that, as it has happened in air conditioner industry, to move from unorganized to organized. So even in that respect itself, we expect it to continue to grow in short term to long term. Secondly, international market, again, whether it's Middle East countries, North America, whether it's Southeast Asia or Latin America, there is a huge opportunity and potential, and we believe that in that respect we have barely scratched the surface. And coming to centralized air cooling, whether nationally or internationally, there is not a single branded company, and that too even in case of small players of centralized air cooler, when it comes to the technology and product, we believe ours is a quite superior product. So these three segments put together should drive good growth, which we expect 20-25% value wise on CAGR basis.
All right, Mr. Shah, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you for taking out time and explaining the business to our viewers. We're going to take a very quick break, and after that we'll be speaking to the management of Optus Circuit.